So I'll call the meeting to order. It's 9:20. The ad hoc committee meeting for Ripon Area Fire District, February 19th. A roll call. I don't know which of you from each will say that you're here, so I'll just do Town of Nepiescum.
Here.
Town of Ripon.
Here.
City of Ripon, here.
Here.
Take a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
This morning's.
This morning's agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Cameron.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. If there's any public comment.
Just have a question.
Yeah.
As you're discussing, I'm just here to, as a visitor.
Yeah.
So should I, if I have a comment, can I make it or?
No, I think it's fine.
I just didn't want to.
No, I keep it informal. It's not official, so that's fine.
I'm trying to just shut up.
All right, so we're on, any updates from you guys and where you're at? So I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay, obviously, Matt and I have had conversation and exchange of emails, most importantly, exchange of emails, and I think we've made progress. The initial proposal for detachment came from the town, languaging, went back and forth with the details. So we exchanged an email on Wednesday, and I gave back to Matt the administration response to it. So that's kind of where we're at. And maybe we could take a peek at that.
Is this the newest one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look at the newest one.
Okay, so share that with you. And I gave one to Tom.
Yep.
Here.
The next one?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've been talking, I've sent the wish list of the town over to Lund, and, you know, happy to say that it by and large got incorporated into what's here as far as, you know, how things are calculated and this vesting concept and all those kinds of things. Without having read the latest version, which I'll do momentarily, you know, I think, you know, some things that probably still need to be sorted out. One is before we get into the bylaws, I think these guys probably have questions, and Tom, I think you did too, about the non-action on the amended budget and how that all fits into this. So I do want to talk about that or hear about that. And then, I guess to summarize this language, because you guys haven't seen it yet.
Just this morning, read through what Lud shared, so I've glanced it over.
Okay, so, obviously we talked about the attachment stuff last time. That wasn't controversial, and you know, we didn't leave with any concerns about that. On the detachment end, we wanted the reverse vesting, or the vesting on the back end. This includes that. It's I had proposed if you give notice right away, you're vested 20%. After a year, it's 40, 60, 80, and then 100. Sort of a 5-year vesting period, which, you know, those numbers are just based on the vesting on the front end, which was a 5-year vesting period. This version here, unless it's changed, it has a...
The only thing I think we responded to, other than what you've seen, was the fire station valuation.
Appraisal? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Kind of coming up with who's going to pay for the initial one.
Got it.
And if you end up close, you split the difference. The difference between the two.
Okay.
Appraisal.
So,
Appraisal is the way.
So one thing that we'll need to sort out, I think, where we're not all buttoned up is the vesting. This one would be, the first step in the vesting is 60%. This is with the 2-year notice period, so nobody would leave until the end of the notice year plus 2 more years. So there's it seems that things are
Plus
covered.
3 more years. It would be 5 years total. From the amendment, nobody can.
Oh.
You got to go through the process to get your full share.
To get your full share.
Otherwise, you get penalized.
Correct.
If you try to withdraw sooner than 5 years. So 5 years was the initial concept. 5 years is what the city is proposing, counting the two.
Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind
yep,
of moratorium.
yep. So there's that, so there's a difference, substantive difference between what the towns had proposed and what the city's proposing on that sort of vesting schedule that I think is something that needs to be talked about. Otherwise, you know, as I sort of understand it in my mind, or hope I have it right, is if there is a withdrawal, you know, that's how it happens. Everything gets valued. There's a concept in here called, what did we end up calling it, the net, something, or net financial position, which is, you know, the value of all the assets minus all the liabilities, and then you get your share of whatever that works out to be. That seems to make sense. The fire station has its own kind of unique arrangement where the city's got dibs on it if it wants it. And that would count against the city's payout at the end. So that it's not on top of the other payout, it's part of the other payout. Correct. And if it so happens, and I'm not smart enough to know the likelihood of this, but if it so happens that the value of the station exceeds whatever the payout would be, then the city's gotta pay back in so that they don't get a windfall as part of the dissolution. As far as the fire station, everything else is valued at book value. The fire station is gonna be valued at the greater of book value or an appraised value, and then, you know, there's some mechanics on how that appraisal works that we can talk through. And so whichever of those comes
With
up.
both the district and the departing municipality having the right to an appraiser.
Yeah, so that's the new
That's
language in here. And then whichever of those comes out to be higher, that's what would be assigned to the city if it chooses to take the station with it. In addition, any liabilities that are tied to the station would go with the station to the city if they took the station. So that's what that, stop me if any of this sounds wrong.
No, I think you're stating it correctly.
One thing that I wasn't sure what it meant was in this, maybe it's not in there anymore. Yeah, okay. Problem solved, I think. In one version of the language, the third paragraph at the top that starts with upon withdrawal had the calculation, so I'll read through this again, but it had the calculation of who gets what. And then it had a phrase that said, adjusted for significant capital acquisitions or dispositions. And I wasn't clear on what that meant.
I would agree, and I think we eliminated that.
And then I think it's gone now, it looks like it's gone.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so basically, in the initial draft, it was talking about using the previous year's calculation based off the previous year's audit, because the final audit wouldn't have been available, and adjusting for that current year activity. But since we said since there seems to be consensus that anything would be revolved around a 2-year payout, well, there's gonna be time for the audit, so we'll just use the final audit. And so then the wording cleaned up in the last 2 days to
Okay.
accommodate your concern.
Yeah, and I, you know, as much as a concern, I wasn't quite sure how that adjustment would be made. One thing as we were talking in here that I hadn't thought about, and maybe it's covered in here, is that when that valuation, it says that all this stuff gets calculated upon withdrawal. Is withdrawal when the notice is given, or is withdrawal after the 2 years?
After 2 years.
Yeah, the 2 years is, nothing can happen in those 2 years.
So the calculation would
If you
be-
leave in those 2 years, you can't leave, number one, you're gonna be responsible for all liability.
Yeah.
So,
I think your question is about when you're effectively calculating the value that's to be applied for the payout.
Yes, correct.
Right, so if someone gives notice,
Do we square up and calculate then, or do we do it at the end?
right, right.
My understanding was now that it's just gonna be at the end. So because you're obligated everything till that end date anyhow, and so it's whenever you, at January 1st or December 31st that you leave, that audited statement is your measurement point that everything's calculated off of, unless you guys think it should be something else.
I mean, the tricky thing about that is it creates sort of an unknown final liability.
Also takes the extra depreciation for the time. You know, if you were gonna pull out a day, the trucks will work more today than they're gonna be 2 years from now.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but that's gonna be detrimental to the person pulling out.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
gonna be,
no,
it
further
could,
depreciation.
it could ebb and flow both
Yeah,
ways,
it
depending
ebbs
on where you
both
set
ways.
it. I think the issue is just clarity, so that there's not kind of dispute about that, and so that there's not the potential for, you know, someone to give notice and you start to plan, and then the end marker can really shift.
Yeah, and I'm not smart enough to know, does that mean that there could be some kind of gamesmanship happening in between in terms of who's approving what, purchases or liabilities during that interim period, knowing that the calculation is coming?
Right, that's kind of what I'm talking about, because you still have 2 years in effect, or 2+ years of municipal fire protection that has to be provided. And so if there's a purchase or something that comes up, and then you can create incentives or disincentives for municipalities to either approve or disapprove of that, to either increase or not increase their payout obligations. Do you know what I mean?
But wouldn't that be, if you had two parties that are staying in, if one was leaving, the two parties probably would not approve anything that would be disadvantaging to themselves. So in all reality, whoever's leaving, there's no way you can, I won't say no way, but the board would have to vote on
Yeah, exactly.
something new, or a fire truck or whatever, where I don't think if there's, in a 2 versus 1 type of situation, they're not gonna allow them to buy more things.
So they grab more.
Right, I think once that initial notice is made.
And again, clearly, the percentages, it makes a difference with withdrawing. And so trying to say, if the city withdraws, here's what happens. If a town withdraws, here's what happens.
Okay, but here's the thing. You can say that, but the towns need the pumpers and the tankers. I mean, that's real important there. And the aerial comes into it too, but let's say you have a fire in the city and they melt that aerial down. And we think the city's gonna go out anyway. That's the most expensive truck we can buy. If you guys are gonna pull out anyway, why would the towns wanna do it? And vice versa, you guys could hold up the reason the thing was done was the way it was is so we had a fire district. All of a sudden now it's getting to be the towns and the city battling this rather than the fire district board. And I think everybody's forgetting that. And I don't know where you guys are coming from in the first place. You guys meaning the city.
Yeah. I'm not,
Because you are not paying any more taxes for the fire district than I am, or Leiden is, or Tom is. It's the same thing. All of a sudden, you decide the city's paying this, and the city's not paying it, the citizens are paying it. I don't get where this is so damn important that we have this bailout, and I'm willing to listen to all this, and maybe there should be a way to get out of this. But I can see problems with it, like Tom says, if you need something, there's a real disincentive to maybe buy it, or there's a real incentive to buy it, depending on what
Well,
side you look at.
I hear you, Gary. I think there's a lot of consensus about needing clarity around
Yeah.
the processes. I think we all agree about that. The point I think you're making is that we really don't want to create anything that has any ambiguity about when something should be calculated or when the timing should be, because the whole point of this is to eliminate some of these ambiguities about how this works. So that we get to a point where we don't have disputes among the municipalities, or it's very clear. And I think, to your point, I'm not advocating really strongly, and I haven't had enough time to think about which one makes sense or not, other than to say, I think it should be expressly stated, to your point about when that effective date of calculation is, so that there is, I don't want to get to a
there's
point
clarity.
in 5 years where someone issues a notice and now we're fighting about whether that should be calculated today or whether it should be calculated 2 years from now, and then that starts creating political gamesmanship and everything else. I think if you have a clear definition, that's what we need to focus on, from my perspective.
Yeah, just be consistent.
Just make sure there's nothing else in here that's,
Yeah, thank you.
it doesn't look like there is, but just in case.
Matt, I got a question. On the back of the fire station property, and maybe I'm just not interpreting it right, but it says that the difference between the two appraisals is 10% or less. The value's average. What if it's more than 10%?
Yeah, that's the new language, that's what I hadn't seen yet. I'll just take you through the mechanics of it, which was, originally, I think the language just said something like there'll be an appraisal, and it's the greater of the appraisal. And then I proposed some language that said, an appraisal conducted by an independent appraiser selected by the district. That way we know that it's not, somebody's picking their appraiser. And then this was the response language, so I guess I'll leave it to the city to kind of talk through.
Yeah, the concept would be, obviously, you find an appraiser has a reason to inflate the value or deflate the value. You get the opportunity of the exiting municipality to get their own appraisal. And then if there's a difference between the two appraisals, value is less than 10%, you split the difference.
I think the issue is just needing to define what if the
It's
two
more.
appraisals are
Yeah.
in excess of 10% from each other. Typically, what we would see there is you have a clause where I know it gets crazy, but
Pick another one.
you bring in a third appraisal and then you say whichever two are closest to each other, you average those two.
And that's fine too, I don't think we were,
Who pays for the appraisal?
the initial
Whoever
one
wants
is,
to-
yeah, to get one.
He'll pay.
Otherwise, no book value.
That's not what it says. It says that the appraisal is paid for by the district. And I
Right.
was gonna bring that up.
Book value, the choice they have.
No,
You can
no, no,
accept
no,
one.
no, it says that the district pays for the appraisal.
The first one.
The first
Right,
one.
right. I'm
Right.
saying, but you also could agree that book value would not go through an appraiser.
Well, the language says the
If the host
value
community
shall,
elects to acquire the land and building, the value shall be the greatest of the net book value as reflected in the district. So that the district could say, okay, that's fair, we don't need an appraisal.
but to be clear, it says the value shall be the greatest of the book value or the appraised value paid for by the district. So
Implies you
that,
want-
It implies
that,
there's gonna be one, yeah.
well, it mandates that there would be one,
So,
as drafted.
Yeah.
But why should the district pay for it?
Well, I don't think the district should. I think if a municipality is electing to withdraw, the municipality would pay the cost of appraisal if they also elect to want to take the real estate. Right, that would be the
To
intention.
add on to yours, I don't have a copy for it, but did it not say that if the other municipalities wanted an appraisal, they could get one? Correct? Correct, correct.
It says that,
Not the exiting one, the other, to retain.
no, the way that it reads is the first appraisal is mandatory,
Yep.
paid for by the district.
Yep.
If the host community wants to obtain an independent appraisal, then they could obtain an independent.
Okay.
I think there first needs to be some language that, if we're gonna have a mandated appraisal in the first instance, it shouldn't be paid for by the district. It should be paid for by the municipality that's triggering the process.
Agreed.
no, I think that, and then as far as if they're more than 10% apart, yeah, we've always done that too, and you get a third appraiser in there. I've seen it where the two appraisers pick the third appraiser, and then the third appraiser makes the decision, or you average them out, or whatever it is.
Yeah, you
And
could go.
I understand the wording that's here and suggestive of the fact that we're not gonna use book value. because that's a possibility.
Yeah, right. It
I
says
mean, that's
whichever
what
is
it's
higher.
begging the question going to appraisal.
So you won't know which one's higher, which one's the
Yeah,
greatest.
exactly, I get Tom's point,
Yeah.
well taken. Is the book value a possible option, and no appraisals are necessary would be the question.
And book value for clarity is depreciated value?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess my suggestion would be right in the middle, instead of saying paid for by the district, we would say paid for by, however we phrase this, but the party that is electing to acquire the building.
And then it seems like that last sentence directly after that should say, not the host community, but the district.
Second one would be, I think that would also be the party electing to acquire, or the host community. I guess host community would be used in both places. What do you think, Tom?
In theory, you could have multiple parties that could want to request a second appraisal. You know, so if one municipality gave notice to withdraw and gave notice to want to elect to take the real estate, right? And that automatically triggers an appraisal to determine the greater of value. In theory, any of the other municipalities or the district as an entity could object to that appraisal, and then they could choose to get a second appraisal. I think it's reasonable to say that if anyone is choosing to initiate additional appraisals, that the requesting party for that appraisal pays for that appraisal. That would feel, that,
That feels
does
fair.
that make any sense?
Yeah, so that sentence would just say, any party may obtain a second appraisal at its own expense? Is that basically it?
Correct.
Wait a minute. You're
Yeah, so
okay with
we're
that?
changing it around, we're saying this, the exiting party is going to pay for the first appraisal, independent appraiser.
And if we don't like it, we can go pay for our own. I'm hearing that correct?
Anyone can.
Anyone can.
Right, but, I mean, like Gary alluded to, I think, you know, the initiation here is not neither of the towns. This is by the city, and I'm not saying that bylaws don't need to be changed accordingly, but at the same time, I would only assume it's probably the city's position that would be leaving.
This
Well, again,
only
it's
is triggered
obviously,
if
it's
the
the
city-
only building we have, so.
Right, but I mean,
It ends up being
I just-
the city being the host.
anything that would, you know, put us in the line of paying for additional anything kind of blows my mind when the bylaws that are intact, you know, say anybody that leaves, you're out. Now, we're gonna have to pay if we don't like the way the appraisal came in. I shouldn't be calling on people, but, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that what kind of created this conversation, I believe, is the initial wording was that the city would acquire an appraisal at their cost. And then some of the language that was back and forth said, well, the city's not gonna select the appraiser. And so then it was gonna be the district that was gonna select the appraiser. So it's like, well, if the district's gonna select the board's gonna select the appraiser, the board should pay the cost, even though the city would potentially pay 75% of that
Right.
in theory, but it would still reserve the option to pay 100% to get a second opinion. So that's kind of the background of why we're having this discussion today.
I think if there's, that's helpful, I think if there's middle ground that sort of takes all this into effect, first of all, the requesting withdrawing municipality pays for the first appraisal. That makes all the sense in the world. I think it also makes sense for the fire district to be able to select the appraiser, to do that initial appraisal, but paid for by the city because or paid for by any municipality that's triggering the process. And if there's any party that isn't satisfied with the result of that appraisal, then a municipality or the district could request a second one and they pay for that. The reason I'd be comfortable with that as district council is because the district will be able to select the first appraiser. right? So that if, and that's a mutual decision amongst the municipalities, at least according to quorum voting. And if there's any objection by a future municipality to that, then they could get in another appraisal at their cost. Does that feel like a reasonable middle ground?
I'm not married to this language, so that's fine.
Okay.
Now, yes, I agree with that too. And then what follows from that is we could end up with three or even 4 appraisals if the district got one, town A got one, town B, everybody suddenly gets one because they don't like the outcome. So then we would just need a mechanism for what do we do when we've got all these competing appraisals out there, would be, I guess, the next thing.
Yeah, I think you could treat it by round, and so that first appraisal sets the initial mark. If other parties want to request a second appraisal, but if multiple municipalities elected to do that, in theory, right? Not likely, but in theory. Then you would just say the result of all of those would be averaged if they're within 10% of each other. If they're not, then a final tie-breaking
Fifth one.
appraisal.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
or whatever, so you could get away from identifying 1, 2, and 3 and just get to sort of like the rounds, if you will.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I could see a scenario where the one comes in and the towns think it's too high and the city thinks it's too low, and then so everybody gets one side, just to have that, something for that contingency, but what you described is.
And if those parties have to pay for that game,
Then they do.
then it creates an incentive not to go crazy with gamesmanship because you're paying your way to do that.
Exactly.
So I don't think it's a
I don't
realistic
have a
thing.
problem with changing it to the city, or the withdrawing, whichever one pays for the appraisal. You want to take a whack at that, Matt?
Yeah, or you had a good idea.
Yeah, doesn't matter, happy to. One thing I thought would come from today, assuming we sort of get some consensus on we've got consensus on attachment, I think, and if we get to consensus on detachment, I thought we could go away from this meeting and sort of prepare a red line, full set of bylaws that reflect the changes to consider, and then circulate that for everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I should say, now, as we're wordsmithing, I'm good with the edits. We'll still have to decide if they're good with the whole sort of package, because I don't know if they've necessarily said that yet, but we can look at what we prepare and then decide.
The other, and again, I'm just digesting this morning, so apologies for playing catch-up. With the vesting schedule, you vest, the initial vesting period begins 3 years after the date of the amendment to the bylaws, right? But the notice to withdraw, in effect, triggers a minimum of a 2-year period of time and a maximum of a 2-year and 11-month period of time. So we're essentially saying that a withdrawing municipality will immediately vest in the 60% threshold.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, I don't know if everybody's on board on that piece, because, and maybe they are, but you're right, I agree with you. We could approve the bylaws on day 1, and on day 2, someone says, we're out, and they're 60% vested
Right.
at that moment.
No, that's not what it says. The 2-year, nothing happens, you gotta be.
They're not out, in
Yeah,
other words, they're still in the district, but they're locked,
Exactly.
but they're getting.
But they guarantee their
60%.
60% payout if they give notice on day 1.
But they gotta wait. The whole point of this thing is keeping the city in, and we're all running with this assumption that the city's getting out. It's just acknowledging that this is one way to skin the cat, which was the town's idea, to come and hold them for a longer period of time, specifically the city.
Yeah, they
And
wouldn't-
so it's 5 years.
They wouldn't be out in the sense of being out,
They'd be paying the bills.
but they would be immediately vested.
Right.
Just 60%.
Yeah, we're talking about vesting, not payout. And so, just to be clear about it, a municipality could give notice on day 1 after the amendment and immediately vest in the first vesting threshold.
Correct, because in that case, the effective date of withdrawal would be during the 3rd calendar year,
Correct.
because there's the 2 years plus,
Plus the,
and that puts you automatically to the 3rd calendar. So I read it that way as well. And so
But it's
that's,
a total of 5 years.
No.
Just, yeah, before they're fully vested.
Right, but we're talking about the first 60% vesting threshold.
yeah, we're measuring from different points. It is,
Yeah,
you
we're
would be
measuring different points.
5 years from the bylaws to be fully
Yeah.
vested.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
you're,
that's what's up.
if you're calculating the date that the withdrawal is
No,
effective.
Right,
If
but
you're
we're talking
saying
about
when
the
it's
first vesting
effective,
period.
yeah. If you're saying when.
There's multiple vesting periods.
yeah, which is the, after the 2 full years, so 20 and 40% have been eaten up by the fact that we're waiting 5 years to get out. It's a 5-year, you can't get out
No, I think-
fully recovering your money if you're saying we're leaving and, well, you pick the dates, whatever they are, you're not gonna get the full value.
Yeah, I understand you won't get the full value. What I think we're missing here is, all I'm suggesting is that all parties need to be comfortable with the idea that if a departing municipality gives notice on day 1 after the amendment is signed, they immediately will vest in some proportionate payout. That is just the fact. And it's the 60% threshold. I don't think I'm misreading
No,
that.
'cause that's the difference between when we're talking about the 5 years. But I think you're talking about 5 years from
To be
bylaws
fully
to when you're gone.
Yeah.
And we're talking about 5 years from, the town's proposal was 5 years from when the bylaws are done until you provide notice that you're leaving. So effectively 7 years.
7 is a little more,
Is
obviously.
is the idea that we were talking about. It was 5 years measured from the bylaws until when you provide notice. And this version is 5 years, but it's 5 years from when you leave,
Right.
which means you can give notice anyway, you're
Yeah.
losing the sort of 3 years.
Right.
I've got a question for Matt and Tom and Glenn. You know, I think one of the reasons the originators of this agreement for the fire district, the bylaws, did not have some kind of a payout schedule available was because of the messiness of trying to do this at the end. I mean, I don't know how you're gonna put the language in there if you get to the point of having it distributed. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of potential disputes about individual item value, and I think, and Gary was here at the time that was put together, but they wanted to have a disincentive to break the district up. That was one, and that's been said to me by members of people in our township that were on that, part of that process.
I think that history is true. What I'll say from the district's perspective is when you're creating these types of municipal organizations, it's a heavy lift to create it and to make it successful. And therefore, you have to heavily disincentivize things that could cause it to crumble. That's what was done, right? That it was not advantageous to leave. It's also true that it's pretty common out there in the world for these types of joint municipal organizations to have an orderly dissolution process. And I think that it is reasonable to think about that, because you can't look at this through the lens of what happened when the district was created, because we were building something new that had never existed, and we are now decades past that. So I think that is fair to recognize the reality of that, and to recognize the reality of if things went south or people wanted to leave, it could get very messy, and it is beneficial to the district and to all parties to at least have some early process about that. So I think it's reasonable.
And clearly, I mean, the elephant in the room is the disproportionate share, the financial cost of maintaining the district is with the city of Ripon. Just, it is what it is.
Well, I don't think it's disproportionate. I think it's greater from a dollar perspective, but not in a disproportionate way.
Yeah, no,
Absolutely proportionate.
Exactly, but the real dollars spent on keeping this entity together is why we're talking this way. That's why we're looking had options. If we keep going back to say, oh, why, nobody should be able to get out of it, that's ignoring what we've all witnessed go through these last couple of years with the fire district. It's not a smooth running machine at this point in time. We all hope we get it going back in the right direction, but we've got issues that have to be addressed. And this is saying the city is in, and the city will continue to be in, but there's gotta be a recognition that if it falls apart, if it breaks apart, there's gotta be some money back. That's it. I mean, and so you start with the question, you end with the question. We have a major purchase that we need to make. The lion's share of that purchase falls on the city of Ripon.
So
We
we
want
want
to
to
get past
time
it.
the purchase to the bylaw change, because that, I thought we had ironed out. This whole ad hoc meeting was to figure out a way for municipalities to attach and detach without losing their skin or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
At the same time, I thought Tom made it clear in that special meeting in January, we cannot hold these two together. So I'm looking at it, and you also said, you know, you guys paid the largest share. Well, Matoman and Green Lake were in this, and they left without getting anything, because that's the way the bylaws were.
Which would have made your share a whole lot less.
Right. Well, would have made all of our shares, I mean, and that's back to the proportionate thing. There is no
And that's the idea of
disproportionate.
attachment and detachment being considered, so we can get some more.
But who are we gonna get? I mean, that's kind of
Town of Matoman is definitely available.
coming back.
Possibly.
So I'd like to, let's get us back on track. We have an agenda with one item, which is to talk about attachment and detachment bylaw revisions. It's not to talk about district operations. It's not to talk about the purchase of the fire truck. And I think we're having really good, productive discussion based on what the two of you have put forward.
Right, but
I
if
think
it's not
it's-
gonna be considered, we're not going anywhere. So there's gotta be a commitment that this concept is something that will be considered by the township.
Well, we're all here talking about it.
Let's say, what type of commitment, like the type of commitment that the city was going to amend the budget for the fire district? Now, twice, the towns have done it, and the city has not.
That's obvious. And
Yes,
that
it
is the reality of why we're here, clearly.
Am I missing something?
Well, you are. You are missing the idea that the city is not going to pay whatever they have to pay without an understanding that we handle this issue, that if it falls apart, not because they want it to, but it breaks apart, there's gotta be an exit percentage of the investment. That's why we're here.
You better speak for me.
I am curious why the budget didn't, because when we left here last time.
Because
I
if
thought
we
it-
approve the budget, we're locked into the fire truck, and there will be no good faith negotiations on the amendment to the budget.
Well, I think that's an assumption you're making, Lud. I think the question is,
It's-
well,
Go ahead.
that is an assumption. The fire district did approve a second amended budget, which triggered the bylaw process for that to go to the municipalities for municipal approval. I think the question you're asking, Matt, is the city administration did not put that on the agenda for even council discussion. And that's the question, I think. Because that is just a procedural process that, the council could vote it down again, but that procedural process wasn't
Yeah, but
followed.
why would we go through that when we want to get this handled and now we've had good faith negotiations
Well, because
between the towns and the city?
Because an amended budget was approved.
But at the same time, I mean, how can the city, through its representation in the fire district board, approve the purchase of a fire truck 3 years ago? And something now has to change in order for them to follow through on their.
Again, all you're all saying is, okay, call it a day. That's not the point of this. The point is to recognize that the city of Ripon is is in a financial position to say, okay, we're in it, but we want it to work. We want it to work and be able to say to the citizenry that they represent, you're not investing in this fire truck, and the towns don't feel like working with you anymore, and the fire district is not functioning properly, but you can't get your money back.
Yeah, I too don't want to get too sidetracked, but I guess Tom's point isn't that a conversation for 2023, or, you know, whenever the decision was made to?
No, because the budget was not passed through the municipality. We went through this already. It was a budget greater than 5%. It was not properly approved. That's a
So should
fact.
we all
We're
just
now
pay a
going back.
penalty? Is that the way this should work? We should all just pay a penalty for a
It's
truck we're not gonna
properly
get?
approved in the town. We're just getting into a whole different can of worms here, but
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to avoid, is going backwards here.
Well-
And you're looking at the city should just approve the budget, and then
Well,
come
it-
here, and then you say, no, you can't
Well,
have
but
the amendment.
But the fire district, if you were hiring your fire protection,
Yep.
what you pay into that fire protection is gone once you pay it. You've got the protection, but your money's gone. This isn't any damn different.
Well, excuse me,
my
we have
language.
assets. We have assets. It'd be different if you just had a
Okay,
contract,
so
and every
you're-
year you pay for fire protection.
I'm
and there's no money.
perpetuating what I was just trying to stop, so I'm just gonna quit. But, you know,
Again, I'm not here to tell you anything other than the common council voted unanimously that the bylaw amendment happens before they approve the purchase of the fire truck.
okay,
I think that, and that can be fine. Procedurally, there was a new budget passed after that,
You want
correct?
them to make the same motion and do it again? It's kind of silly.
Well, I think that is procedurally absolutely what should happen, is there could be discussion amongst council members about how they want to view that.
Can we ask one of the council members that sits here, his opinion?
Yeah, I think it should be on there, but in my opinion, is what I asked Adam.
But the motion, we're talking about $100,000 difference, is that what we're talking about?
Correct, a new amended budget was passed because there was a difference in the price.
Okay. So that's,
And that was distributed to the municipalities after the last fire board meeting when that was approved. And that triggered the process for the municipalities to vote on that budget.
And my answer is for two reasons. I understand where you're coming from, Lud, is that theoretically, we could get to city council and it would be the same thing, and we'd have the exact same conversation. That could happen, but it might not happen. And by principle of asking for a good faith effort of everyone here to have this conversation, I think that it's also in a good faith effort to say to the city to rehab that same
you have
conversation.
no leverage at that point in time. So,
I understand
period.
what you're saying. but
Period, and
I-
that's fine if that's what the common council wants to do.
But it is, it's just a procedural budget requirement, but I don't think it's proper to deprive the council of having to have that discussion, and the council is of course welcome to make the same decision. I don't speak for the city council members. But there is.
But every minute and every day that goes by, this isn't getting done. And why are we going backwards? We're here to get the amendment taken care of.
We are.
Okay.
I think the
Can we
question
come
was.
back with the city is working with the town's proposal, okay?
The town, I don't mean to speak for you, the attorney for the town asked the question, why was the restated budget not put on the agenda for the council to deliberate as the procedures dictate?
Because they've already spoken to the concept.
There was a
It
second
was a
amendment.
unanimous vote of common council. I mean, you can put it on again, you get the same answer.
Are
So be
we
it.
disputing that there was a new budget?
No, we're not. We're looking at, it doesn't change the reality of the situation.
Has the council voted on the second amended budget?
No, because it wasn't on the agenda.
Why?
Because this is the homework we gotta take care of so that it can pass the common council.
That's not what the procedures require when a budget is approved.
I don't understand why we're arguing about procedure. This is just, you wanna get that on and you wanna delay some more? All right. And when's our next council?
It
Get
didn't
done.
need to delay anything, Bud.
Well, that's the point, let's get it done, and then it goes on with both of them handled, and then you get to buy the fire truck. All you're doing is delaying.
We're not delaying anything.
Well, then let's get agreement.
That's why we're here. A question was asked as to why the council did not consider the second
And the
amended
answer
budget.
is that they unanimously voted that there needed to be amendment to the bylaws before they would authorize the purchase of the fire truck pursuant to the requirements of the current bylaws.
I just want to be really clear, it was not before they would authorize the purchase of the truck, it's before they would approve the budget expansion for the fiscal year, and which includes the funds for the purchase of the fire truck. That budget that was presented for consideration was subsequently amended a second time for the adjusted value of the fire truck purchase. That procedurally triggers that has to be redistributed to the municipalities for consideration and a vote. That didn't happen at the city.
And we would, again, speaking on behalf of the administration and on behalf of the council, because the council voted unanimously to get this done so they could vote to spend the money to buy the fire truck, accepting the new budget.
A question I have is, when's the next city council meeting?
Next, March is March.
10th or 11th.
Yeah, so if we can get this on,
Are we able
with the
to-
budget, we move forward. That was the point of you and I talking and getting this thing moving, so we didn't just come back here and go, let's argue again about whether you're gonna consider it. I don't represent the townships, I represent the city.
Yeah.
This is an offer to get this issue done, and yeah, we can talk about full tweaking, but at least this part of it needs to be done so we can move forward on the purchase of the fire truck. That's the whole point.
Well, we are where we are, right?
Right.
As far as what's been on agendas and what hasn't. I guess I would hope that it'll be on the March agenda, that's the next shot that we get. Even
Yeah,
if-
after
even
this
if we're-
meeting, obviously, it'll
Even
be
if
on
we're
the
still
agenda.
tweaking some stuff, if for no other reason than to report back and say, hey, we've been having these meetings, we're having fruitful conversations, everything's proceeding in good faith.
Right.
There's a new budget, it's $100,000
The
cheaper.
the
Yeah, it's
purchase
a
of the
different
fire
budget.
truck, there's a drop dead time, right? Again,
Yeah, and they're gonna get, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
It's
costing money.
scheduled to be delivered in April.
yeah, there we go. So that's why we need to get this done. So
Yeah.
all we're doing is going backwards and talking about what the city council did or
Contract-
didn't do.
Depends on
Contractually-
where you're standing, I guess, whether you're going forward or backward,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But as you
Exactly.
mentioned, contractually, they're committed
Ooh,
Are they or
no,
aren't
they're
to
not.
pay their part.
They're not.
Oh, the district
Oh,
is,
I'm sorry,
fire
if I-
The district is. The district purchased it.
and then to the district, everyone's responsible for their share.
for providing funding, right.
Right.
The city
Which
has
was not
indicated-
done properly, just so everybody's clear. And we keep going around.
If we're not going backwards, then,
Yeah. Yeah.
then let's not. So, the purchase was authorized under district bylaws. What we're talking about is budget funding,
Yeah.
okay? To be really clear about it, and I think that's important. No one suggested we go backwards. I think we're all sitting here in good faith. I think we all sat here in tremendous good faith last time we had this committee meeting and made great progress. It's also just true that the budget was amended following that first city council vote, resulted in a $100,000 decrease in the budget, and that just hasn't moved through the municipal channel. You
Yeah.
can say that your thought is that the council may vote the same way again, but they may not, to your point, Jonathan. Maybe it's a 7-1 vote at that meeting. Maybe it's a unanimous vote. Maybe there's good just discussion that the public can hear about the work that the committee is doing, which I think is, you stated, it's been in good faith and productive. I think that's the only point that we're trying to make, is that there are the bylaw requirements that does go to the municipalities for consideration.
Yeah, and I can promise it'll be on the next agenda. Let's get this done, so it can pass.
Great, that's all we want,
Yeah.
is that it should be on the agenda as a budget
Yeah,
item for
that's fine.
consideration.
That's fine.
I don't think there's any dispute that that has to happen. Shall we get back to the terms? I think where things went a little sideways is we were talking about the concept that a municipality that gives notice right after this amendment were theoretically adopted would vest in the 60% threshold. I'm not suggesting they'd vest immediately in the 100% threshold, but they would vest immediately in the 60% threshold. And would there be any desire to create a slight buffer so that there's not immediate vesting upon execution of the amendment? I think that would be in the district's best interest so that we are creating a structure that provides a structure where someone can't immediately give notice and vest in a payout.
That's our position as well for the town.
If I could, I'd just like to talk to the town's attorney. Take a
Yeah,
recess.
Our plan. Gary's done well.
Tom, I was writing to Adam. I couldn't text him out of Adam's number, but I was writing to Adam an email to say, can you please just put it on the agenda? I've asked.
Surprising, because I saw his
Yeah,
face get red, so I thought for sure.
I'm not
I don't,
under an illusion that
oddly
it
don't-
changes things, but it's just procedural.
I oddly don't have, like, I don't totally know the structure of how you get stuff on the agenda.
Yeah.
But like, it's not a guarantee when you,
Right,
so,
right.
I don't know how it works for you guys if somebody comes in. Like, what makes it onto your agenda specifically?
I
You
decided.
request to
Somebody
be
has to
on.
request it, that's all.
And then it's approved by the chairman?
Yeah.
No,
Well, if it's requested, it's put on the agenda.
right.
I think the difference with the city is you've got staffed and paid administration,
Yeah.
whereas the towns just have the chair of the board, which is different than having a,
We do it ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah, I could go, if I own some property in BPS, I could get a hold of the clerk and say, I'd like to bring this up at your next meeting. And
Yeah,
then put it on
the issue is not, I don't control the city's decision-making, but there just was functionally a different budget that was approved by the fire district. It just was. And so that triggers the municipal approval procedure. So it just needs to go on the
And
agenda.
the vote might go exactly the same. I have no idea.
Yeah, oh, yeah, the point is not to say guarantee a different vote.
Yep.
The point is just to say that council has to consider it and
Can-
make a decision. That's all, I think. I really don't think it's complicated.
Okay.
Well, and the city approved the first amendment budget, yes or no?
Correct.
So-
This one's
so why-
100,000 less.
Yeah, it's 100,000 less. Why wouldn't they approve it?
Can I ask?
Yeah, because it could be approved with the same contingency, but it just, procedurally, we just need to approve the amended budget, is the point.
Can I ask you, Tom, just for the district's perspective? So 3 years ago, the district signed a contract with Pierce. At that time, the municipalities should have done something, or was our vote in that time enough to sign on a contract within the district? Was that enough to sign the contract
Yeah,
to begin building? or
there's
not?
a distinction between purchase authority and budgeting,
Right.
and funding.
Right.
But
And
don't they agree, when they approve the purchase of that truck, don't they agree that they're gonna fund it?
In theory, yes, because you've approved the purchase, you've approved to move forward with that. But that's a fire district approval. And then the funding cycle is just disconnected from that. And if the funding is above that 5% prior threshold, it requires the municipalities to approve the budget, to make it formal. And we've just got a unique situation where a purchase contract was entered into that was done unanimously, but now that the budget is just not being approved. So there's a disconnect.
I got
And so
a
it's not,
I got
yeah.
a follow-up question
Yeah.
for you. The thing that, I mean, we came here in good faith to try to openly discuss and consider changes to this thing. And now in this meeting, you know, what's uncomfortable to me and unpalatable is that Lud is talking about coupling the leverage of the bylaw change with the purchase of the fire truck. And secondly, I think since I've been on the board, there's been a dramatic improvement in the operating efficiency.
And all of a sudden, we're told it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Well,
there's been-
Maybe you could tell us where that came from.
Well, I think, guys, we're still here,
We've got a discomfort with
we're
it.
at a committee, we've got an agenda to talk about
Right.
the bylaws and this process. I agree, talking about prior operations, it's not on the agenda, I don't think I don't think we need to even be talking about it.
Are we in recess? Kinda. Or are we still talking amongst ourselves? I mean, our attorney, our representation's gone, so I feel as though in this, hey,
You're doing a good job with this meeting.
Well, it's just this is a committee to work on it, that's what we're doing, you know.
so back to, not to have gotten sidetracked, and I don't want to open up, but I just want clarification so I understand.
Yep.
So you had said fundamentally that the budgeting process happens through those townships after that was approved, correct?
Through the municipalities.
Right. Would that have been a budgeting approval or resolution from those municipalities within that, say, year, or, I guess where
No,
I'm.
and that's where you've got the distinction is because the actual money flow is just happening 3 years later than
Okay.
the purchase contract because of the nature of large fire engine apparatus.
Okay,
Right,
so it
because
would have
you're
had,
just in a world where it takes 3 years to build a truck. If it were buying a piece of equipment that was
A pickup.
bought immediately,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, was gonna be bought in short order, then it would be on sort of, like the budget cycles are tied sort of
okay,
immediately in the
Right.
in the successive year if it were to bump it
Okay.
over. But you just have this, it's I'd call it like a unique timing mechanism of the purchase being authorized at a point in time, but the money doesn't need to flow to pay for that until 3 years later. So the money flow is getting approved in a budget cycle that's 3 years disconnected from
so what is,
the contract.
what is the proper procedure then? Because there has to be, just about everybody that runs a fire district puts in a proposal to buy or signs a contract to buy, but then say it's I mean, most fire trucks are a waiting period. So do a lot of districts, I won't say a lot, but, and I maybe you only represent one, but is this something that happens more often than not, that when you get to the point where you need to pay for the truck, all of a sudden, one or two or all are like, oh, we don't have the money, or we can't appropriate the money to do that? Because that's the way I understand it.
It can happen.
Obviously.
And there are state statutes that deal with the fact of, because this happens in the world of municipalities, because available money can shift depending on all sorts of things that happen in a municipality related to tax revenue and other expenditures and unplanned projects. And so there is a concept in state law that if a municipality enters into a contract for something and later the funding just isn't available, that can be a legitimate way to cancel the contract basically without there being, like a messy default. Like that's a municipal rule. And I'm probably not getting the nuance of that perfect. Here, that's not quite what we're talking about because the funding, all the municipalities have indicated the funding is technically available, right? So we would not have an ability to go to Pierce and say, we have a free exit valve on the contract because the dollars aren't available. The dollars are available, they've just been made contingent.
Sure, okay.
So I know those
Okay,
are
no,
like
no,
nuanced distinctions, but does that make sense?
Yes, it does, it
And there
does.
must be a difference in how townships handle it versus how the city handles it, because once we entered into this contract, we're buying a truck in the Berlin Fire District, which is part of our township, and the Ripon Fire District in the same year. But we started setting money aside, and I'm assuming that the town of Ripon may have done the same thing, but because we knew that we had this obligation, because we entered into this
Right.
agreement. I mean, what's the difference in how the city operates versus how we?
Well, I think the money is available, I don't think that's the issue. So I think it does get to why we're all here as part of an ad hoc committee though, because there are ways that you could improve and clarify the procedures for how the district operates so that you avoid these types of issues. And I think that's fair, right? For instance, you asked, how do other places do it? You could design a procedure that talks about certain purchase thresholds. For instance, that a purchase over a certain dollar value could require municipal approval at the time of purchase contracting, separate from the budget approval, right? I mean, like, so,
Right.
these are the things that when we redline the bylaws, we want to be giving some thought to that.
Right.
Right, those
Right.
procedures that are beyond just attachment and detachment. Does that make sense?
Which truthfully, till this, I had no idea that was how it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, I think this is the only type of contract we enter into that would be paid for 3 years. I mean, everything we do is immediate.
A lot
Yes,
closer,
yes.
yeah, just by the natural order of
Right,
things, yeah.
right. So, yeah, this is an eye opener in general.
Did you guys solve it?
Yeah, we're good.
Just need to get me out of the room.
Yeah, that's why we charge you so much. We had a talk, you guys wanna have a talk quick?
Sure.
Very brief.
We're supposed to leave, is what he said?
Only one. I don't wanna pull a quorum of the town board
Oh,
into
no,
the.
no, oh, you guys are going, okay.
Yeah,
One of these things again.
one of these things
Are you
again.
meeting in the bathroom?
We're caucusing.
You're not, I'm going.
Pretty close.
Yeah, I really feel in our bylaws, we need to have, something with capital budget planning.
Yeah,
Where like
right.
capital budget planning is going to the municipalities for approval.
Right.
So you can see like in 3 years,
Right.
this is the X dollar, and we need to show the city or municipality has 33% funding at year 1, year 2, year 3.
Right, like separating the concept of annual operational budgets from
Yeah.
capital expenditure.
Would that be
Yeah.
would that be part of this agreement then, or?
No,
Oh, yeah.
Just-
no.
No, it'd be a
Well, it's-
standard procedure
It would
for,
be a different
be a separate
section
part
that
of
we
the
can talk
bylaws.
about in a different.
I mean, that's just the way the towns operate, you know, because we don't have deep pockets, you know, we set money aside in every budget, goes into an account, interest-bearing account, for get these big capital, and it's not good for us when both of the entities that provide our fire protection buy a truck in the same year.
Yeah.
You know, it's a
Right.
big deal, and they're
Yeah,
about this,
double whammy, yeah.
about the same.
Is your other part that is Berlin, is that closer to Berlin? Is that why
Yeah,
you use
it's the
Berlin on
north,
the other
it's a,
half?
yeah, we've got the bottom 8 sections are Ripon Fire District and the top.
Have you ever had any issues with folks that are really close to the boundary and there being any confusion about who's supposed to respond? Or has it been pretty clean in operation?
It's been good, but what happens is everybody knows about mutual aid. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we've got, I mean, sometimes Utica comes more quickly than either Ripon or Berlin, which is not a bad thing, but, yeah, the thing I'm most concerned about is that doesn't it hurt your feelings, Gary, that he makes a blanket statement that the operations are deficient, you know, well,
Yeah, you teased me off, actually.
they've been dramatically improved. I mean, you know, the accounting and, well, you've seen it too, I
Yeah.
mean,
I don't think it's a reference, I think his reference specifically wasn't like today. I think what he was referencing was 3 years ago, right? Like,
Okay, well, it
you know,
sounded like it
8
was-
years ago to 3 years ago, like there was a downturn. And now we've been improving. I think he phrased it a little wrong of what he really intended.
Okay.
Maybe I'm inferring that wrong. but
Yeah, I
think that's what
I don't think it's productive as to
no,
why we're here.
I know it's not productive, but,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we came here with open minds, willing to look at this thing and
Good faith.
I think good faith.
I don't see
and-
good faith.
But I
coming.
think it's important to
Keep moving.
keep your eyes focused on what
Yeah.
is reasonable things to be thinking about.
And, you know, and I'm not saying, you know, rules should change as times change, I guess, but I just, the method that they're doing it kind of just, I mean, that's the crank and the whole
Yeah, so-
thing.
Yeah, and part of it is, Barry, that you may not like it, but there's some reality to that. If this can happen because of how the budget process works in those bylaws, then we do want a system that prevents this sort of thing from
Well,
happening.
and I've been thinking, and I've been out and bought a lot of stuff. I can't ever remember fire district budget for that stuff. It's always.
The next city meeting is Monday, so it'll be on the agenda Monday.
We.
I wrote to Adam to make sure it was on
chips.
Yeah.
He just said,
I was gonna tell you, Jonathan, just because I'm a nice guy, before you leave and go back to work, if you're going back to work, make sure you comb your hair because there's some bugs were in there. And I can see them.
"It's got bugs in my hair."
Now we'll see how long.
Actually, I'll be
the,
working from
the
the
duct tape
fire
goes up there.
station probably.
It'll probably hold up for a few years up there.
I don't remember how long this was on the calendar, Tom, but at 11, I'll need to drop out.
Yeah, we had it.
Yeah, we all got to drop out.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Tom, you and I are talking.
Sure.
Gary, we'll just have a meeting, just the two of us. You know, the biggest problem, Jonathan, we've gotten at Town of Piescom is there were people that looked at this very carefully when this fire district was formed. And we're gonna have to get these bylaw changes approved by the electorate. It's not just that the board can bless it. I believe it has to be approved by,
I think it probably has to go back to one of the municipalities again, I think.
and I
Maybe
think,
not.
I think they're
We'll ask Tom, he'll know for
For the city, I think it was just.
convincing them, I mean, that that's a good idea. You know, I mean, they don't understanding why it needs to be changed. Basically, at least in our township. Now, you guys might be more sophisticated, Gary, in your township.
sure. Well, no, we're not more sophisticated, but it'll come to the board and nobody comes to the board meetings. So we'll just pass it if we think it's the best thing. I mean, you know, you can say you have to represent your constituents all day long, and you do. But on the same token, there's a lot of times you have to make a decision on what is right, or what you feel is right, whether somebody agrees with you or not. And that, I don't know, to me, it's never been a big problem, and I've never got called out for it, so that's, you know, you know what, well, in our town, we don't have a lot of people come to our meetings.
I mean, if it's a contentious issue,
I just try to do things as I see that should be fair and right.
and if somebody gives you input, you try to consider that. I mean, we're always looking back,
Exactly.
not to kick the electorate in the shins, you know, I mean,
I mean, if somebody comes and has a problem, I surely want to know what it is. I mean,
no.
you want to address those things. But sometimes, you know, sometimes you vote for things that people don't want because it's something you have to do, and hopefully it turns out the right way to
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
Wonder what it's like outside. I know they've been going out so long.
Gary, do you see Jeff and Jane very often?
Jeff,
Clark and your sister?
no, I don't. Oh, Jane, I'm married to, but,
No, but, oh, that's right.
yeah, but there's Jeff and Jack left because Jay died. But Jack's moving down to Alabama because his daughter's down there. And Jeff is in North Carolina or someplace right now. I see them once in a while. Sometimes he comes up for EAA, and then
Yeah, I had.
Gail's sister died 2 years ago, so he was
Yeah.
up for that.
Yeah, I've seen him, he called me when he was, well, here I am at when Webster's was still Webster's, I'm in there at like 6:45 in the morning, I'm walking out the door and Jeff is coming in, nobody's in the store but us two, you know? What are the chances that he's
Yeah.
gonna be in town, and I think it was for something having to do with his sister-in-law or
Yeah,
something.
well, I know she died a few years ago, so.
Yeah, so, and then he set a time, we met at Canoes and had a couple hour mini reunion, you know? I mean, I can still remember, I mean, back in the day, I can remember when he was working for Leonrider, and he got run over by that hay wagon and lost a kidney. And I can remember going to St. Agnes Hospital when he was in the hospital, I mean,
Lucky he was alive.
yeah. But I was just wondering, it's our reunion year potentially, and there's a committee that's working on it. I haven't heard anything back, but,
My wife's reunion's this year. They're gonna have that in May, I don't know how that's gonna work, but. Oh, yeah, it's funny, you know Mike Thompson,
yeah,
we're out in, Montana, and we wanted to take the Beartooth
Yeah.
Highway.
yeah,
It's one of those, so we go around from the other side, and we go up the mountain, and then we stop down, and my daughter and her husband, they said, well, there's supposed to be a new brewery, kinda like Canoes down here.
Mhm.
So we were looking and we couldn't find it, and then we finally found it, so we go in, and, I gotta go to the bathroom, they sit down, there's a table, and they sit down, I come out of the bathroom, and, this guy with beard and all, he was coming toward me, he said, you son of a... It was Mike Thompson,
wow.
and, he lives in Red Lodge.
Wow.
But, his daughter-in-law worked at this place, so it was fun to see him. And he wanted me to come and see him back, but we had to get back up to Paradise Valley, which is between
Yeah.
Livingston.
I was just there a week ago.
Really? No, you ought to see
I
it.
spent 10 days visiting a friend in Bozeman,
Okay.
and then I got a tour of everything within an hour, went down to the Yellowstone, did not do the Beartooth because that one pass
Yeah,
is
they
closed
close
in the
it.
wintertime, yeah. That's on the agenda at some point, but yeah.
Well, the year my daughter got married, my brother Dennis went out there,
Hmm.
and he drove out with Vanagon, which doesn't have enough power to go to Montana. So, but they get up to the top, and it's supposed to snow, and it snowed the week before. So the snowplows are up there, and he's diddling around, and finally they told him to get off the pass. You know, either you're going down, or you're staying where you are, because we're pulling the plows out, and you're gonna be on your own. But, you know what, that's the other deal. Red Lodge is kind of pretty, but Mike Thompson lives in that Red Lodge, and they build bear boxes for the park systems.
Oh,
They do a lot of other things too, but
Yeah.
one of the things they do is build bear boxes because, you know, campgrounds and
Yeah.
even in town, for your garbage and garbage can,
yep,
you don't want to get those bears visiting your back door.
yep.
So they really look nice.
So where's Red Lodge compared to?
But it's before you get to Livingston.
Oh, okay.
It's, you get through
Toward
Billings.
Billings, huh?
Yeah, go through Billings.
Okay.
And then I don't know, I think it's maybe 12 or something, that goes off to the south before you get to, I think it's before, I can't remember some of those little towns. It's after the little town where the refinery is. And that little town was started with people from Ripon.
Really?
Yeah, there's a sign, I stop and read.
Yeah, yeah.
I was really amazed. But, yeah, it's about halfway. The road goes up and then it's.
Yeah, I've been to Colorado skiing, I've been to Utah sightseeing.
Mhm.
I'd never been, I drove through Montana with a U-Haul truck with a large trailer helping a friend of mine move to the West Coast at one point. But I'd never been out and around, and, oh man, I was overwhelmed. We took the Bridger Valley, we went up that way, you know, and down to Livingston and spent some time there, and went to Gardner, and
It's
just,
a pretty town, but they're having big problems in Gardner because, you know, they need a lot of people to work in the park. They know people are coming in and buying the homes for more money than what, you know,
yeah.
the people can afford, and they're bed and breakfast, so they're really having an issue with.
It's a labor shortage really for some of those areas. I had sticker shock just visiting there, I'm like,
But yet, you know, you go to the grocery store in Livingston, which we do when we go out there.
Yeah.
It's not any worse than that. But, you know, you go to some of those restaurants and, you know, if you go with somebody local, you should be able to eat pretty cheap.
yeah, a good friend of mine, his son is in Belgrade, just 6 miles down the road from Bozeman. And he knows, you know, the local spots and stuff. His wife has a growing cleaning business there. And of course, there's a lot of people with money that don't want to do their own cleaning. But interesting, good scenery though, and the weather was every day was warmer than it was here. It's like 50 degrees.
And my daughter said it's been 50 degrees out there.
Yeah, 50 or 60. Where's she?
She's in Paradise Valley.
Oh, really?
It's that little town you go through, it's in Paradise, Immigrant?
Oh yeah, right by the old saloon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
we stayed at night at Chico Hot Springs.
Right, okay. That's where she had her wedding reception.
Yeah.
Well, that's where she got married, actually. They don't go down there much anymore. They said that, I don't know, somebody else took and she said it was getting too expensive.
Yeah, it's like, you have to ask how much it costs you.
No, well, they used to go there all the time, like on a Friday night. Soak and have a beer and pizza, and she said, no, you can't afford to do it there anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So they've been going down, if you go just before you get to Gardner, there's they call it the cult, but it's a church. Can't remember what the name of it is, but they just put in a new facility with hot springs.
Well,
So they've been going down.
I saw a sign for it, yeah.
Yeah, and it'd be when you're going to Gardner, it's on the right side of the road.
Did you say they call it a cult, but it's a church?
Well,
It's a,
if you want, I don't know if you guys read it or not, but there's a book, it's called,
I'm insulted, you don't know if I can read?
It's, if you do.
What do you think these glasses are for?
Well, most people can read, but some people don't read much. I read
difference.
too much and I don't get anything
It's the
done.
difference between reading and comprehension, I get it, yeah.
But there's,
Sorry.
it's called The Prophet's Daughter. And this guy started this church in California, and then he moved out there and he owned thousands and thousands of acres. Because they cashed in big on their California stuff. But then they got thinking that time's end is coming, and they got bunkers full of food, and they got enough food for years.
Yeah.
But then they started buying guns. And they were fine buying the food until tobacco and those people found out they were buying these guns, then they were in big trouble.
Oh,
But
Gotcha.
it's really.
and this is out by San Diego? Or,
That's where they came from down there, but they moved up to Montana between Immigrant and Gardner, just outside of the park.
gotcha.
And so some of those bunkers where my daughter lives, that was owned by the cult people, that's what they call them. Actually, they don't call them cult, they call them cut. Because I think cult doesn't, you know, now we're being, yeah. But anyway, there's bunkers all over that place, and the neighbor they just got invited to a party, and somebody had bought one and redid it. And she said it was really nice. Now, when her husband and I were walking around out there, batting around, there's some of these, and nobody's been in them for years.
Yeah.
We were just gonna break into one and see what it was like.
Yeah.
And she had a fit.
Get some cans of beans or something? Sure.
I just fell off out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Montana's, you know, if it wasn't so windy out west, I'd move out. But, you know, all the way from
You know, all the nooks and
western
crannies.
Minnesota to, I don't, we've only got as far as Bozeman, as far as I've gone into Montana, but it's just so windy all the time.
Is it in Montana?
It's
Yeah.
just constantly windy.
I've got some family down in Texas, and they say that, about where they're at in Texas, that the wind just blows like
Yeah,
near constantly.
yeah.
And it's just sand in the air all the time.
Well, you know, when they started settling the west, you know, women just went crazy, you know, because they couldn't keep anything clean and.
Yeah,
You know,
just
that-
that grit, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just going, and their husbands are out working, and they're by themselves, and they just, you know.
Yeah, I hear you though, like, I'll take cold and warm and all the things, but like wind is where it can really
Yeah, you know,
get you.
wind's all right for a few days, then it better slow down or stop, you know,
Right,
it's.
right.
What I liked about, so I was in western Texas, driving through, and it was interesting, is because it reminded me of Wisconsin, like rural Wisconsin is where I was in Texas.
Hmm.
But they don't get our cold that we get here. So I found it interesting, and like from the city level, and the amount of money that they must spend on their roads is just dirt cheap compared to what we end up having to pay up here. Because they're 75-mile-an-hour roads, and you can tell they're old,
Yeah,
but they're fine.
It just
'Cause they're not-
smooth.
Yeah, they're not getting the cold snaps that we are, it's heaving all the roads
Yeah.
and cracking.
Right.
have you been to Oshkosh lately on 44?
Like a week or two ago.
Well, that's really a nice road. I mean, you know, they did a nice job building it. But now, I noticed the last couple of weeks, we're getting this in there, and it's from the heating.
Yeah.
I suppose that sun's
The
so
high
warm.
heat, the super low cold. and
Yep.
just-
And there's just nothing you can,
Yeah, it can't, it's not that elastic.
Just remember, this is all Wayne's fault.
No, it's not, it's all your fault, because you're the only remaining member that started this whole deal, so it's definitely your fault. Definitely your fault.
You know what? The guys that wrote all these things were a lot smarter than the guys that are coming up now.
Whoa, whoa. Geez, Gary, how do you really feel?
You just proved it before when you said, hey, that was a good thing to put in there. But there were a lot of good people on the fire district when we
And
did
they worked hard at it.
it. We worked on it hard.
I
It
will say,
wasn't that easy to get it put together.
I'll say this much though, that was a different time.
The fact that it
The world-
lasted,
The world was different then.
the fact that it's endured for, what, 20 years?
Yeah, all of that.
That's
And you know, the relationship's been here for far longer than that. I mean,
when did it formally start?
It was in 2000 something.
2002, I thought they said the last time.
Yeah, I've been on since '09.
But-
Yeah, it's gotta be right around.
Because I was gonna say it's at least, well, it's gotta be close to 25 years old.
But what was it prior to that? Because I just
Then we
had,
had, the city of Ripon had their own fire department. And the Ripon Rural had their own fire department, which was Matoma and Green Lake and.
Okay.
And Brooklyn was on it for a while, and they got mad and left, and then you guys took their place.
so that was, because I just saw something in our town hall, that was, must have been before 91. Because there's
Yeah,
a really
right
nice
before.
picture of you standing by a new fire truck in
Yeah.
1991.
I wanted a blue one, but. But anyway, but the city manned the fire department. I mean, they manned it, they
Yep.
paid the firefighters and all that. But we all had our own equipment. But when that got too small to house it, you know, does the town go and buy a building and put our stuff there? And then the city's got theirs somewhere else, and, you know, for the firefighters, and it just wasn't gonna
Right,
work.
right.
So we went together, so we'd have something to say about the building that we built.
You know,
That's why it was,
which makes sense.
yeah, that's why it was formed. I think, you know, maybe if, you know, if our town had had the building that we have now, at that time, maybe we would've just put
State.
Ripon Rural there and then worked something out with manning the fire department. I don't know.
How big was that city's garage when they had it done?
It's terrible.
How many bay was that?
3, I think.
Like, was it just in the city building?
Yeah.
The depth of the bay was too narrow.
Oh,
The only way you could get it, like even the tankers had a big snub nose because,
I appreciate your articulation on this.
and we actually.
I'm not trying to get off the subject either, but
Ladder
I'm
truck
just,
for a number of
Okay.
years.
you know, they can understand how we're feeling.
Yes, I realize.
well, this is probably good.
So I think a couple people have an 11 o'clock hard stop.
Are
Just-
wondering if we're wasting our time.
No,
It'll be,
not a waste, just to let you know.
we're making some progress.
Yeah, good, good.
It'll be 5 minutes, not anymore. Sorry.
No, that wasn't my point, I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing a good job of sorting this out, just like that your initial response that you gave us in writing, which was helpful to understand what you gave us those 3 options.
Yeah,
I mean, that was extremely helpful from, because, again, we've got to sell it to our constituency, so.
yeah.
Both the supervisors and our chairman need to be on
Yeah,
the bandwagon.
yeah, and thank you, and the reason we wanna lay that out is at the end of the day, what's good for the fire district, what's good for the community is
Good for
resolving differences, figuring out a path forward, and that's that. And it's not always easy, it's not always, it can be rocky, but that's what we're trying to strive towards.
And we have to have fire protection. I mean, it's not like it's a voluntary item, Even if you don't, you hope you never use it, but you gotta have it,
Yeah, right, it's like insurance, right, or any of that sort of
Yes.
stuff, yeah.
Same deal.
You sort of hope that you're flushing the money down the toilet in a
Yeah.
way, right?
Exactly.
My wife and I are having a thing, because I had a big life insurance policy, but then after so many years, you can quit paying on it.
Right,
Well, the life insurance is gonna run out, because I never figured I'd live this long, the policy runs out this year sometime. Or we can pay a whole bunch of money.
right, to,
to
yeah.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
It's just, that just doesn't seem right. And I said, well, you gotta look at it. When we had the kids and we had other options, I mean, it was, so you'd be okay. And I guess it served that purpose, so, the money we spent
Right.
wasn't wasted. It's
Right.
gone now. And I probably should have pulled it out years ago when the kids left, but I didn't put it into something
Yeah,
else.
but you're right, it's the idea that the point was,
To
hopefully you
protect your
don't need
one-way
it,
bond.
but if you do, it's there.
Yeah.
And if you survive that period of your life, when kids are young, or when you've
Yeah.
got a mortgage or whatever else, and you get past it, well, celebrate that,
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, right. And
Now, if you can figure out how to get past that time, and then also still die just in time to get the insurance proceeds, now you're really doubling up. But that's harder to control.
When is the next fire district?
I should call them up and see when
Next.
it'd be the first
March.
Monday.
Yeah, first week of March.
Oh, so it'd be like the.
I
Sunday,
think that's
first
barbecue,
Tuesday, is that right?
Monday be the second, be the third.
Just depends on how the calendar
Okay.
goes.
So that, I think the discussion is headed in that direction, that we will have something to bring to the full board. That's my understanding from talking to Matt, from Matt's getting the green light. And then we will go into closed session on Monday, the city of Ripon, and get the green light for the language. Matt's gonna write it up. We'll copy you in, so you're aware of it.
Sounds good.
And then we take what we achieved directly for approval by the fire district on their next meeting.
That works.
Okay. Okay. That's what I think is going on. See if Matt Ted comes up with something different.
Yeah, give the road thing that you were talking about though, it's so true. I've got family down in North Carolina, and you go down there and it just feels
Yeah,
like you're
places
driving
are
on glass,
Yep.
And then you go like, man, what do they put, and then you have to remind yourself, yeah, it's just not getting hammered by salt and
No
plows
frost,
and
no
heat and
frost.
frost. And
Yeah.
It's just,
We lived in Vermont for about a year, and it was interesting there. was, and it was a bigger city, it was, Vermont's weird, right? It was the second biggest city in Vermont, and it was the size of Ripon, right?
Really?
So like that's Vermont, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
but, so, the city had no ordinances for shoveling,
Okay.
so, you know, you'd be walking, and somebody would be like, I want a sidewalk shovel, right? They'd go shovel, and then the next property down, they're like, yeah, I want a shovel, right? And it'd be like a foot of snow that you had to like trudge over,
Yeah.
so, but the roads, their state must not mandate the same plowing that we do, but they allow tire chains and studded tires.
Oh, sure.
So everyone in the city has tire chains or
Yeah.
studded tires,
Yeah.
except us, coming from like rural Ripon, right? So like, and I would have to drive my wife up this like mountain in my like old '92 Mazda. And I'm just getting passed by everybody with tire chains and stuff.
Yeah, out of towner.
We should not be living in this city.
Ka-ching, 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 you could hear them coming.
It's all local is the point,
Yeah.
right? Blood, just, I don't know where the,
Popped up?
yeah, just picked that.
Oh, nothing surprising me, I think we have something figured out.
Yeah, so Lud's comment was at our next fire board meeting, you guys will have something that you'll be presenting to us.
Unless he tells me something different right now. So,
Give them a choice.
are we looking? Anything changed from our?
No, okay.
We hear you. So we all talked in different iterations and have a version that I think will work. And we'll start out the details, but it generally involves the fire station goes with the city.
If they exit.
If they exit, because that just is the only thing that makes sense. And then a modified version of the vesting, and that modified version will include a significant disincentive to immediately withdraw. And then everything will kind of get adjusted from there as far as the percentages from that point on. So I can take a stab at it and share it.
Circulate it, and then we'll circulate it to Tom, and then I think the goal would be at the next fire district meeting, bring the attachment and detachment language. Get ready to amend the bylaws on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
once we get whatever you guys
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
agree amongst the two of you, then we could take it, put it in red line bylaw format
Okay.
with the attachment language, and give you guys a chance to look at that and tweak it. I mean, I think we have
Yeah.
consensus on it, it's just a matter of if
Yeah.
there's wordsmithing to do.
Yeah, right.
There's your work section right there, that's the deal.
See if we can put that in.
Tom, what about that, the messiness of dissolution, does that have to be handled in the bylaws? If we're gonna approve, there's gonna be a reduced incentive to get out,
Yeah.
but, I'm just concerned that if that process is ever implemented, how specific does that have to be, or is it gonna all have to be negotiated at that point?
Well, there's just an element of, there's gonna be things that have to be figured out, because what, we can't know how big in terms of dollars the respective buckets are gonna be until you get in that time, and we don't know what assets we'll have, and there's gonna be an exercise of figuring out how do we fill up the buckets and what assets are we using to fill up the respective buckets with. And it could be that a municipality can choose to leave and the district has appropriate assets or cash, or the other municipalities want to fund cash to pay them out but keep the assets. Or it could be that it could be that is just the realistic end to the district and you figure out alternative plans.
Okay.
But can we lay out all the specifics for exactly how it happens? No.
Okay.
But that's why I felt it was important that we have a longer term period from notice to effective date, so that what you do have is you've got time to figure it out.
Okay.
Do you guys have anything else to add to that?
Makes sense. Yeah, well, you're gonna try to get the language, but
Yeah, so what we try and do is we try to solve a lot of these variables
Okay.
so that you reduce the areas for ambiguity,
Yep.
and ambiguity leads to disagreement.
Yep. Okay.
So we reduce the amount of areas for disagreement so that we can focus on the practicalities of how we're,
You and I, that's
How we're
one
moving
out
forward.
together, so I know what I'm telling city administrator, right? All right.
Yeah.
Does that feel like we're at a good place?
Does to me.
We've got 5 minutes until it doesn't matter whether we're at a good place. Because that's our drop dead time, but
Yeah.
I think that feels okay. That feel okay?
All right,
Okay.
Sounds good.
all right, beautiful.
Thanks, everybody, for
Yeah,
your time.
thanks, everybody.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I so move.
There you go.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Been a while since I've seen that.
Yeah.